Do you ever find yourself scrolling online and you see people making cool jewelry or other metalworking type stuff and you think to yourself, man, I could do that myself too if I had the right tools? Well, stick around. I'm gonna show you how I made this copper bracelet and copper dish to keep it in with 5 tools that you can make yourself. I'll show you how to do it. First tool on the list, a tapered hammer. Now, you gotta be safe whenever you're working with a rolling object, right? This is round, cylindrical. So I just take this clamp, that way I keep my fingers away from the bandsaw blade. And after I clean up the edge, I'm going to offset my bandsaw table by 10 degrees, just so I can get that taper that I like. And so you might be asking yourself, well, why do this out of recycled plastic? Because A, it's soft, and if you're gonna be pounding soft metal like copper or brass or something, you don't wanna mar the surface. So this is gonna help. And after I get my tapered edge, right, it's basically gonna have two sides to this hammer. There's gonna be the blunt edge, which is gonna be very rounded, which is on the bed of the table right here. And I'm kind of cleaning that up just to get a rough shape. And this is to get the big pounding action done that you want to use to, like, you know, make bowls or just shape metal in general. And then the other end, which is going to be like the smaller bit, it's going to be used to get those finer details and sort of bend the edges around, get the curves, the curvature that you like, and, you know, make it snow. That's what's up. So now that I have the rough shape, it's like very lightly concave? No, convex. It's convex on the edge. Got to get it right. So I'm taking my lathe, this is lathe 2.0, trying to get a nice rounded surface like this. And I clean it up with some sandpaper. After I throw a handle on it, now I have my hammer. So I can start taking this round disc of copper and smashing it into a bowl shape, which is kind of nice. So now I've made my own thing. I've recycled plastic, and let's talk about the other tool, which is the dapping block. Now you can go out, you can spend $20 or so and get you a dapping block set, such as this, and straight out of the box, you're good to go. But if you know me, I like to make tools myself. I also like to do it on the cheap so that I can save a little bit of money here and there, right? That's what my channel is all about. So this is pretty basic. I just took a piece of branch that, you know, fell in the yard and cleaned it up, right? A little hardwood action. Taking some Forstner bits on the drill press, and I'm going smaller and smaller on my drill bit set, deeper and deeper, way down, and getting this rough shape as such. Now you probably have seen this, right? I've talked about it on my apothecary cabinet build for the drawer knobs and also the copper turtle video. So this is just a more detailed approach. How I did it, using the chisel, getting the round shape, making it nice and smooth. That way I can use it whenever I'm going to do more copper work. So we're going to Tarantino it right now, right? We're going back. And I have this piece of really thick copper. It's about 16 gauge and really tough to cut, even with snips. So I went back and I annealed it. And now you can see that I'm having less of a stressful time getting all the excess copper off so that I can get this disc shape. All right, so we're coming back full circle, pun intended, with the dapping block and the plastic tapered hammer that we made ourselves. So far, so good. And we're roughing this bowl shape without marring the surface like you would do with an iron hammer, which will be nice for planishing later if that's, you know, what you desire. And there we go, nice curvature. Whoop. So let's talk about the third tool, which is just a piece of iron pipe. And what I plan on doing here is smoothing this out with my angle grinder so that I can get a rounded, I guess you could say an anvil, so to speak. And I'm just taking all these raised bits off of the edges just so I can get a nice smooth piece of cap. And this is 1.25 inches with its associated cap as far as the piping diameter is concerned. And you can go smaller, you can go larger depending on the copper or brass or whatever soft metal you want to work with. But I'm just showing this one for demonstrational purposes. So with this pipe anvil that I'm making, I'm actually taking it to the vise to keep it steady and then using my metal hammer to add some texture and get a good curvature towards the edge. And then later on, I will take a smaller pipe with its associated cap, and then I will spare you the details of me just pounding metal, but I wind up with this. A cool ornamental bowl made out of copper. It's nice and smooth. I filed the edges. Whoop, and that's that. Now I'm going to move away from shaping bowls and whatnot, more into a jewelry frame of mine. And I noticed this whenever I was checking out the dapping block in the same jewelry section of the store. And this is just a curved piece of plastic on pliers. And I thought, well, I could do that myself because I recycle plastic all the time. And using HDPE and this piece of aluminum foil, I use the aluminum foil just to rough the curvature of my wrist so that I know what to transpose onto this HDPE block. Using my dividers, I get the curve, and then I'm going to line the piece that I need to cut on the bandsaw. And then whenever I get it ready, cut me bro, movie magic, clunk, done, right? So that curvature is built into the block. Now I'm going to get my piece of copper, and this is just copper drain pipe. You can get this at the store for super cheap as well, at the hardware store. Now we got to pound it out. And so using my little anvil and hammer, I'm going to rough it into a flat bar anneal it. This is what I'm talking about when I mean anneal, right? Because you're pounding this metal, you're giving it a lot of stress. You don't want it to become brittle, so you heat it up, and I'm just using a torch. That way it's easier to shape, it's more malleable, and you can get a nice straight piece of copper block. Boom! Cut it into pieces. Now I got 6 pieces. They're roughly about 1 inch in length, and that should be sufficient to get around the wrist. And I'm just going to anneal these once again so that they are soft. Make sure they're cool before, you don't want to melt your plastic block. And I'm just using a vise that's mounted on the side of my workbench. But you could use pliers, just something to smash it into this nice curved shape, thusly. And I do that for all 6, and there we go. Now you could stop there and just buff out these pieces, make them look real bright and shiny, and make a bracelet. But I made some textured copper hammers in an earlier video. If you wouldn't mind checking that out, if you're so curious, go for it. So once again, right, annealing process. I use my little bowl that I just made filled with water to quench the copper so that whenever I take my texturizing hammers, it's easier for it to take the shape. And hey, you know what? What better thing to use to take the impact of the hammer blows than the piece of plastic that we just made? Keep the curvature and add texture, so it's a win-win. And there we go. Just add a little detail, right? Makes it look a little nicer. Rinse and repeat, and we've got all 6 ready to roll. Now I got to link those 6 pieces together. And I don't have any copper linkage, and it was really hard to find them at the craft store as well, so I decided to make my own. So I took a piece of copper wire, and I wrapped it around a giant, that was like a motor screw or something. And then I just took a piece of scrap block. I drilled a hole in it that would fit the diameter of the linkage, and wrapped that around this piece of metal, took it to the hacksaw, and now I've got my own copper linkages. Is that what they're called? Linkage?
I like link better.
Okay, we'll call him Link, but can I call him Linkage?
Cool.
Now that I have my linkage, I will take my needle nose pliers, and you notice, right, the edge of those needle nose pliers has like a rigid inside for grip. I took the middle part because it's flat, so again, it doesn't mar the surface of my linkage. Squish them together, place them together, and there we go. We got the makings of a cool copper bracelet. And you can see here that the copper has a lot of patina to it, but you can skip this next part if you wanted to keep it, but I wanted to buff it out. And you can call this the unofficial tool number 6, which is just my microwave blower motor that I've recycled into a buffer I buffed the metal with. So there's my completed bracelet. I had to get a clasp online, but we've got the jewelry dish to keep it in. And we added the texture as well to the bracelet, which I think gives it some nice depth. And if you want to see how I created that texturizing hammer, as well as some other ones, I'll leave a link on the screen for the video here. But other than that, I'm going to call this one good and go make some more bracelets for my kiddo. So we'll see you on the next one. Peace! So I need to say, do you ever find yourself scrolling through... Nailed it!